In a long list of episodes that didn't end the way I wanted it to, this one is the way I didn't want it to the most. Guitars are not complicated machines, at least the electrics. It may be difficult to build and it may be absolutely impossible to play well, but it isn't a particularly complicated thing. It's a pickup, a switch, a pot, and an output. Now, we can make it much more complicated than that. In fact, for the last 21 months, I've explored almost every option available within those choices. I've tried different types of pickups with various magnets. Some are vintage wound, others hot wound, some overwound, some underwound with the green grass growing all around, and the green grass growing all around. And I've moved them around relative to the bridge. I've soldered 100 junctions. I'm still no better at it than I was before, but I've moved them across the 3 axes of existence, as well as pitch and yaw, examining how it affects tone. I've run them in series, out of phase, everything I could think of. I've run tubes and amplifiers, live mics, solid state. I've run direct. I've used pedals. I've used interfaces. I've used effects in post. I've used complex tones and very simple setups. I've simulated rigs from the greats and people that you've never heard of. I've tried offsets, minis, T-styles, strats, super strats, things that weren't offsets, minis, T-styles, strats, or super strats. I've changed out tuners, string trees, saddles, pots, wiring, capacitors. I've gone through phases of sight and sound and style and formed opinions that were absolutely set in concrete for exactly 14 days. I've come to discover the importance of pickup, position, and processing. All the things, all the options, all the mods, all the time. And there's really only one thing left to try. And that's the 4th element of tone. Me, the player. My thoughts, my feelings, my speakers, my earwax, my mood. And I need to approach this like I do any other project. Map out a plan. Adapt the plan as necessary, but work towards a goal. Establish an endpoint. And of course, first, I have to start off with an admission. I have at least 3 number ones. Okay, no, maybe 4. Okay, at least 5. I have too many choices in this room sometimes, which is great for the channel, but it's not always great for me. So for this project, I'm going to pick one guitar, just one. One that can play a variety of things. One with a tremolo bar, because I'm starting to like those. One with a comfy saddles. One that I can play sitting down or standing up. One that isn't likely to break down, given that I'm about to put at least 45 hours on her in the next little bit. Now the funny thing is, I didn't expect it to be her. I didn't expect to choose the cheapest one in the room, thanks be to Goodwill. But she has it. Unlike the Squier Strats, she's got a vintage style tremolo, but she's still Strat-shaped. Unlike the CNZ ST Mini, she's got the right sounds for a variety of styles. That P94 can twang like a telly, but the lipstick in the bridge gives me the bluesy vibes that I like. And of course, she's got that neck. 22 frets, 22-inch scale, 13.75-inch radius, and a 1.65-inch wide nut. Most importantly, she holds tune well. Honestly, I'm surprised. I thought for sure it would be one of the CNZs or at least one of the Squiers. But this guitar might as well be one of the CNZs. The JD Mini ST known as Carry. Although I admit, I do have to resist the temptation to swap necks with Lady Dies so I can get that maple fretboard. But that's it. This is my 30-day guitar. Except when I play with the Junior Appalachian musicians, this is it. This is the one that I'll play, and if she breaks, I'll fix her. But here is the hardest part. No new episodes. 1 minute of recording a day for my diary. That's all I'm going to allow myself. And that sounds easy, but I have to remember I produce 4 episodes a week. Some are harder work than others, but that's it. There'll be no posting to the Facebook groups. The next few weeks are going to be entirely hidden away in secret, because I want to know if there will be much difference in the last element of tone, the player. For you, the next reveal is about 60 hours away. When you see it, I'll be a month older, and we'll see if I'm any better, because I plan not just to play, but to practice. Now, my format is very much me. It's not nearly as simple as it could be. The days of the week are going to be broken up by the major keys, A through G, and yes, that means I'm going to loop around to A and B one more time than the others, and I'm fine with that. A is probably my strongest key, and B is probably my weakest, so that'll work well. My daily routine, I'm going to spend 5 minutes prepping time with music, because I really want to learn to read music for the guitar, the key and the chords. I'm going to spend 5 minutes doing spider walks or scales. And then I'm going to spend 5 minutes playing 3 chords that I know I can't play well. The next 5 minutes, I'm going to take possession of progressions and try to use those chords, loading it into a looper for 5 minutes of noodling. And then at the end, I'll do my 1 minute of recording. Hopefully then, in 30 days, I'll have improved the player, the last element of tone. Now, of course, this is going to be in addition to any other playing that I do, but it's my goal. 1 month, 1 guitar, 1 player, 1 plan, and let's see what a difference it makes. I'll see you in 60 hours. In the meantime, like, share, subscribe, comment, and enjoy. Okay, first off, I thought this was going to be really, really boring. I wasn't entirely wrong. 3 days in, and I'm already using more than 1 guitar. I've got Woody at work, I'm playing my Taylor Baby at the Junior Appalachian Musicians practices, and I can't seem to stop playing the new Telly. Or maybe it's Lady Di. I did a pretty decent job of setting all these up, so I'm happy with them, and I find myself absent-mindedly just picking up different guitars for different days. That's the fun thing about having the attention span of a gnat. Once you crack the seal on a promise, it's as if it never existed. And I'm starting to read music, trying to relearn what key signatures mean and what the structures within that would be. That's not coming easy to me, but it's not as difficult as I feared it was going to be. The spider walk and the scales are actually becoming fun because I'm seeing an immediate improvement in accuracy and speed. I probably practice these about 20 minutes a day in 5-minute sessions. Chords, by the 3rd day, I've covered different forms of A, B, and C. Once I get to D, I'll probably be goofing off quite a bit. And that's actually funny because I know half the chords I'm learning by shape. I just didn't know what keys they were. I'm reminded of something that Phil McKnight of Know Your Gear said, that sometimes self-taught guitarists are like Swiss cheese. We have holes. Well, I'm discovering where those holes are, and I'm starting to fill in the gaps. One thing that I did not expect is that I started listening to a lot of different styles of music almost immediately and trying to play along with the melodies, not play the guitar parts. You know, some people can make that guitar talk. Some people can make it growl. And I really want to get to the point where I can make it sing. I think that's why I favored the Hagar era of Van Halen. I know that's anathema to a lot of people. And I would have loved to have seen what they would have done with Gary had they given it a few albums. The potential to become an American queen stands out to me. I was listening to Can't Stop Loving You the other day, and I was paying attention to the harmonic rings during the second verse, the way the vocals and the guitars danced around each other, unlike the Dave era where he tends to grunt over the guitars half the time. The vocals and the guitars were kind of a point and counterpoint, almost to the point of a counter melody. And then you hit the falls into the solo, the quick runs, volume swells, a blues lick or two, and then a fall into arpeggios with the vocals coming back. Less than 25 seconds. I listened to another song from an earlier part of that era, Runaround. The solo is only 30 seconds. The rest of the activity in the song is fills underneath and around the vocals, and it makes me wonder, why am I just now catching on to that? It reminds me when I listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan. I actually like his voice and the way that he sings, not because he's a great vocalist, but because he brings his own personality to it. But I have a tendency to skip over the long intros and get straight into the part where the voices are dancing around with the lyrics. That's something that I need to pay attention to, because apparently that's kind of the direction that I'm growing. But the strangest thing hit me on day 4. Because all of a sudden, I was inspired to play an old progression in a new way and noodle over it. And when these things hit, I tend not to stop them. Okay, I admit, it still lasted longer than I thought it would. by the 11th day, I had noticed a couple of things. One is that mistakes didn't necessarily have to kick me out of rhythm. Usually when I make a mistake, I speed up as if playing faster will somehow make it better. The other, which seemed even stranger, was that things that were familiar were coming easier, being a little smoother, and my pinky was getting a lot more involved than it had been previously. All right, day 14, one of the things that I've noticed is that I've kind of hit the ceiling as far as the speed goes, and I think that's largely due to my right hand technique, or lack thereof. But the pull-offs are easier. So I'm going to have to switch to going to I think I'm going to have to switch to going a little different picking pattern. But the other thing that I've really noticed is that I am not gripping the fretboard nearly as hard as I was 2 weeks ago. When I'm doing stuff like this, and the nice thing about that is because I'm not gripping it so hard, I'm less likely to pull sharp. You can hear it go sharp just a little bit. So that's a nice change. Around week 3, I noticed things change. For starters, I know many more ways to play the A major chord. And it's become apparent that my left hand speed has pretty much overshot my right hand's ability to pick. But the other thing I do on day 19 is decide to shift my focus away from the major scale and the spider walk to the blues scale. I'm still going to use the others as a warm-up, but I want to increase my musicality as well as increasing my speed. And so I pretty much figure that this basic blues scale is the way to go. So I write it out on a post-it note and keep on my desk as a frame of reference. This is what it looks like, but this is what it sounds like. I really like the way that sounds. And so I go ahead and map out on my little key that I'm going to keep on my desk until it becomes a permanent part of my brain, an extension of that blues scale. I know that some of the notes overlap, but it gets into the slides and the bends that's so much of a part of my style, and also helps me incorporate a few other notes that aren't necessarily on the page. But perhaps the most significant change of the 30 days happens before the end of the third week, when a friend of mine invites me to her house to play for a party that she's hosting. And I do it without nervousness, in joy, without backing out, and lead some sing-alongs and make a lot of mistakes, but most of all, just have fun. Oh yeah, the woman on my right, that girl ain't nothing but pretty. A few days later, the morning of day 24, I'm not looking at the fretboard. I'm not really even thinking. Stuff is just kind of happening. That video was shot on the 28th day, while pushing hard for the 30th day to do the scales faster and faster. My hand locked up, and it didn't release the next morning. 4 days later, I still can't play. So we hit the reset on the MGS for reasons that I didn't anticipate. But that's okay, 'cause it's what we do.